Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Framework Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ana Trujillo Limon, and today I'm joined by my other host, Jamie Hopkins. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Anna. Good to see you this
Good to
morning.
see you this morning. And we're here with James Lee, the incoming FPA president at the FPA annual conference, the first back in person after COVID. So welcome to the show, James. Thanks
Oh,
for joining
thank you
us.
so much, Anna. I really appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we always like to kick off with something fun and something everybody loves, which is talking about food. So,
Ah,
so tell
okay.
us a little bit about your favorite foods.
Well, I'm of Korean descent, and so my mom would be very disappointed if I didn't say that my favorite food was Korean food.
Ah,
Um, and everyone knows that Korean food is the best food, anyways, right? So I grew up. My mom was a great cook. Grew up with Korean barbecue, kimchi, rice, naengmyeon, which is a cold noodle soup. And I have, those flavors are just, mean so much to me. But more recently, I've become a vegan.
oh, okay.
So some of
So you
those,
just erased all that great cooking for your
you,
mom and
that,
that Korean
yep.
barbecue. Just
Was
Well,
what?
ki-
you
is
would think
kimchi
so.
vegan?
Yeah,
Isn't
You
okay?
can
yeah,
make kimchi vegan for
Okay.
you
sure.
can.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you can also substitute other things to make those other dishes as well. So it's not as tasty.
Me
I have
too.
to admit that,
Yeah.
but it's still delicious,
Well,
and gets me back to my childhood and those flavors.
yeah. Well, this is how you know that vegan food is not as good as regular food, because all vegan food is like, this tastes just like a cheeseburger. Then I'm like, but then you just eat a cheeseburger. Like the famous stuff is like Beyond Meat stuff. It's like all you want to do is replicate the meat flavor.
Yeah, for some people that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me though, I adopted a vegan lifestyle for health
Yeah.
purposes, and so it's working for me,
Yeah.
and so I'm continuing it. But I do miss,
Yeah.
real meat and real cheese.
Oh,
Yeah.
Did
yeah.
did you kind of stage yourself into it, or just like went just well, you said health reasons, so
Yeah.
do you just decide, hey, that was it, and
Yeah.
decisions made? And
Yeah. So I adopted the vegan lifestyle right at the beginning of COVID.
Okay.
And I watched a documentary on Netflix about elite athletes who have adopted a vegan lifestyle for recovery
yeah.
and performance purposes. And I was suffering from some chronic joint pain, my elbow and back. And my wife has been a vegetarian for 30 years. And so we just decided, hey, it's the beginning of COVID. We're not going anywhere. There's no pressure to eat meat by when we go to a restaurant or friends' homes. So let's try this. And we tried it, and in a couple of months, my pain just completely went away. And so we're sticking with it.
I'll look up his name. I think he might be in that documentary. I've done one or two things with him too. He was an NFL lineman, and
Yep,
he's like the 300-pound vegan, and
that's
that was
right.
his name. I think he's in that documentary, right?
Yes, yeah. Game
Yeah.
changer, it's called. Yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, and he's done some like interviews and quotes with us at Carson before. He's good friends
Ah,
with Marcus Ogden.
Ah,
They
okay.
played together, and yeah, so they usually don't think about like 300 some pound offensive linemen being
No,
vegans,
no,
right? But
no.
yeah, but it's pretty interesting. Yeah, game changers and trailblazing, and
Yeah,
that's it's pretty awesome. Yeah, I keep thinking that I would like to do a month at some point, just like go vegan for a month,
right.
and yeah, I don't know. Some of it's just you fall into like last night I ate like 12 chicken fingers when I showed up to the thing. Like I just stood there, was like putting ranch on chicken fingers, standing by myself, and I probably did eat about 12 of them.
Yep,
But had I been vegan, there was like no options there, so I
yep.
would have just had to like wait and order like a salad somewhere later. But
Right, right.
the world like just let me be the worst version of myself
yeah.
last night.
Well, our colleague Jessica Harrington is vegan, and we've
Okay.
been traveling together a lot recently.
Yeah,
So she's kind of, whenever I'm with her, I'll just like, I'll eat vegan with you. Like,
yeah,
I don't want her to have to seek out something extra. And so I've been kind of really digging this vegan stuff. So
yeah.
I would like to toy with the idea of becoming vegetarian or vegan, but my mom, so I come from a ranching community, and every year my mom buys a steer for my
Ah,
sisters and my brother, and we
right.
all share it. So it's like, okay, well, I can't stop eating meat this year because mom bought this year.
That's right,
So, like,
right.
but yeah, no, it's been like I do feel better. But dabbling in new lifestyles, it's like you kind of get caught up in it. Like I like 121 days ago, I'm like, I'm gonna take a break from alcohol, and it was like, okay, maybe another 30 days, another 30 days, and it was initially supposed to be 30 days, but I
Right,
feel so great
right.
and so clear, and so like, so I'm like, we'll see how long it goes. I'll
Yeah,
just clear myself out.
right,
Did you
right.
stop drinking too, or did you
No,
drink? No.
no, my wife and I, we enjoy our wine and
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
cocktails. So that actually during COVID, uh, we became pretty good cocktail makers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, that's always a one that I find interesting, and this is not like a criticism of you, right? It's like, I'm gonna eat healthier, and then you're like, but I really like drinking alcohol, and like, no, like it's still net beneficial that you ate healthier, right? But it's an interesting thing because like I cut out hard alcohol this year, and I love I love
sure,
bourbons and scotches. Those are my favorite things, but
right.
I don't feel that good after I drink them. And
Yeah.
when I got COVID a year ago, my head's still not the same.
Mm.
And that it actually hits me harder. I was talking to somebody else about this that actually it was Aaron Shaban after his heat stroke and his brain damage that he feels like he doesn't have a runway between like first drink and a buzz anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like that anymore either, where I
Yep.
used to drink like 4 or 5 drinks before I felt anything. The first drink, my head already feels off.
Right.
So I cut out that almost at the exact same time you stopped for about 120 days, and then not the exact days, but in that general ballpark. And so I'm sticking to that one. I love champagne and wine, so I still drink those. I'm not a big beer guy, so that's just helpful.
Sure.
So yeah,
Yep.
that's where I am on that.
Yeah, champagne's
Okay.
my favorite. I'll get back to that one day.
Yep.
But is Ben
It's-
Lewis still vegan? Do you guys?
No,
Oh,
Ben
okay.
was vegan for a while,
Yeah,
and
he
we
was.
talk about that. But yeah, at some point, it wasn't working for him, so he decided to become a non-vegan, a
Okay.
meat eater. Yeah.
All right. So we'll shift a little bit, James.
Sure.
We've been on
We've been on
food for a
I
long
was like,
time.
yeah, so people were like, they're gonna talk about anything else today.
This is
So,
a financial planning podcast. So we'll shift.
yeah,
Okay.
let's go to some financial planning.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So James, tell us about your first money memory.
So my first money memory was getting tips on my paper route. So my first job as a kid was to deliver newspapers, and every week the customers would pay for their subscription and potentially leave a little bit of a tip in an envelope, which I would pick up, on the
Aw.
Sunday route. And so, it was always interesting and exciting to see if you received a tip or not. And, in a small way, I think it did leave me with some value about making sure the papers were delivered on time. And so that's my first money memory. Yeah.
Jimmy, what was your first job as a kid? Did you have like a paper route or something?
I didn't
never
have a
knew
pitch.
that.
No, so because my parents ran the construction
Oh,
company, so my first stuff all had to do with that. Whether
Yeah.
it was, and it probably wasn't the first one. I don't know the first like task I was doing, but like, so shipments of material would be delivered, and you would put that away into like a warehouse
Oh,
thing.
okay.
Yep.
And so like that's probably the first stuff I remember more like physically doing, right? Like you'd pick up boxes of downspouts and gutters and elbows and brackets and screws and just put them away. And so like I was probably could be like 9 or 10 and putting that stuff away.
Cool.
And it is probably around there. That's probably my first job, was doing those types of things. And then I did work for that company a lot growing up. So those were most of my first jobs, were the family business.
Okay.
But then my first non-family business job, and I think this is accurate, was lifeguarding
Okay.
at like 15, right? So
Yep.
it was like as soon as you could be a lifeguard in Maryland was 15. So
Yep.
that would have been my first family business role.
Awesome.
How about yours?
Sorry.
Oh
Oh.
no, that's okay. Well, I used to. My dad did not own a construction company, but he used to work a lot. He roofed a lot of houses, and so like I would just take along with him because I just loved it, and be climbing up the ladder and helping him, nail in like the shingles and things like
Right.
that. And so I used to like that. I mean, I wasn't very helpful. I would just like take my books and kind of sometimes do a couple things, but I don't think he ever paid me, so it might
No.
have been a job. But my first real job I was a waitress at a local. We have a train in my hometown, like a tourist train,
Right.
and so like the restaurant that was right by the depot, I would work there, and I loved it. And
Yeah.
my friend's mom was a cook, and she'd make me delicious food all the
Mm.
time. I gained a lot of weight that summer.
Wait,
Well,
so
I have something in common with both of you because
Yeah.
I was a lifeguard
Okay.
and a
Ah,
waiter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think both of those jobs actually taught me a lot.
Yeah.
Lifeguarding in terms of responsibility,
Yeah.
because you are truly responsible for the lives of the people that you're
Yeah.
watching in the pool. And a server, I think, is an incredible learning experience
Mm-hmm.
for anybody that, obviously financial planning is a service industry.
Yeah.
And we are serving our customers as a waiter or waitress.
hmm
And so it taught me a lot of lessons.
For
Yeah.
sure.
There's a lot. I know a couple people that truly steer into like if you haven't been a server, right, type of mentality because you have to deal with all these different people,
Yes.
and it is a really interesting thing that I never like waited on tables. I was a bartender, and people are like, "Oh, it's the same thing." I was like, "It was not because I was a bartender at a college bar and I didn't care at all, and I made like 4 drinks." So like,
Yes.
it is not the same experience
No.
at all.
No. Yeah.
But I did trigger my first when you said going to the job sites. That would have been the very first thing because it would have been when my dad went out to measure a site, and I would hold the measuring tape sometimes because sometimes you could just they'd hook it to the side and run down, and sometimes it'd be like weird twists, and you'd actually have to have kind of somebody hold it, and he'd just walk down, and we'd take down the numbers, you'd hand
Right.
out the other one, and so that would have been like the very first thing I was ever involved with was holding the measuring tape when you go out to a site and do measurements to draw up a quote.
Yeah.
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 So James, paper route, server,
Mhm.
lifeguard. Tell us about your journey from those into financial planning.
Okay. So, I went to college at the University of Virginia,
Okay.
and I went to college with every intention of becoming a doctor. Um, it's a helping profession. I truly wanted to help people, and my first year at UVA, I volunteered uh, at the college hospital, and they assigned me to the surgical intensive care unit the first week I was there, and in about 2 days I realized that there's no way that I could become a doctor. My stomach just wouldn't take
Mm-hmm.
it. So I had to quickly decide, on what major I wanted to pursue, and I decided on economics. My dad is or was a professor of economics at Skidmore College in Saratoga Springs, where I grew up, and I just decided that I wanted to pursue something behind my father, and fell in love with the learning that was happening with that degree. So after college, I went to work in Washington D.C. for an investment research firm, and this firm, what my job was as a research analyst was to analyze legislation and regulation
Mm-hmm.
and how it impacted specific companies and industries. And I'd write reports that would be sent to our clients who were um, mutual fund managers, pension fund managers, and they would use that information to help them make decisions on what companies and what sectors to invest in. So I did that for about 8 years. This was in Washington, D.C. And then I married my wife, who's also from my hometown, and we decided we want to move back to Saratoga to be closer to our family. So we moved back, and I went to work for a research firm in Albany, New York. But after a couple of years, I realized that this was not my calling. My clients back then were, again, investment
Mm-hmm.
managers. Their primary focus is on investment returns, and my calling was to help people. And so, after researching, the various avenues that I could take, I decided that I wanted to become a something that was not very common in those days, which was a comprehensive financial planner. And so, I had fortunately I'd saved enough money to last through a few lean years, and just hung a shingle, and started with friends and family, and have built a business from only referrals since then. And so, I like to say that I found my helping profession, just without the blood. Yeah,
That's always good.
yeah.
So I have a hospital story then
Okay.
too. Um, that's another. That was not a paid job. It was a volunteer, and I guess that was my senior year. Probably would have been this summer, then heading into senior year, because I was trying to put like volunteer stuff on the right resume for college.
Sure.
And so I volunteered at one of the local hospitals, and mostly I was in like transportation, so I would basically push beds and people around
Okay.
in the hospital. And we did, though, one time have an individual who probably had some mental health challenges, but was also fairly high. Like, had been restrained once already, and at one point, like, got super violent. And, like, me and another person had to, like, basically tackle this person. They started throwing, like, things at the staff. And I remember after that being like, I don't know if this is my favorite thing. And then the next day, somebody like had a heart attack while I'm pushing their like wheelchair.
No.
He was like,
And
forget this
I
job,
was like,
forget
I
this
was
gig, I'm out.
like I'm like 17 years old, and like in the course of 2 days,
Oh,
I've like
no.
helped tackle somebody, and somebody is having a heart attack like while I'm pushing them, like in
Right.
between like test rooms, and I was like, I don't think they're doing well, and like they didn't die, but still, it's like a very scary because like 17-year-olds
course.
have like. I'm just pushing this chair, man.
Right.
Like I've got no ability to help you. And
Yep.
luckily, we're in a hospital.
Right. Right.
So Jamie's
but-
affirming your decision not to become a doctor.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
great. Sounds crazy.
And I was like, this is too much for me.
Right. Right.
So James, we're here at FPA, and I know it's a very special organization to a lot of the folks we've been interviewing.
Yes.
So tell me about your journey, your FPA journey,
Yeah.
and what the organization has meant to you.
Yeah, so I started my firm in 1998, again, with very intentionally wanting to become a comprehensive financial planner, helping my clients with their entire, make good money decisions with their entire, in their entire financial life. But my background really was in investments, so I needed to learn about all the other aspects of someone's financial life. And so I just researched various professional associations, and in 2000, joined the Financial Planning Association and got involved with my local chapter. Got tremendous education that helped me deliver great value to my clients. And at my local chapter, because of my background in analyzing legislation and regulation, I naturally decided to volunteer on the advocacy efforts at the local chapter. And at that time, our advocacy efforts were basically just seeking proclamations from our local mayor and governor about Financial Planning Week. And I realized that, because I had seen in Washington companies and industries fail or succeed based on their advocacy efforts in Washington, that the financial planning profession needed stronger advocacy efforts. And so we started, myself and a colleague down in New York City started our New York Advocacy Day, where we would bring planners from around New York and visit with our state legislators and just talk to them about the value of financial planning and the differences between financial planners and other people in the financial services industry. Yep. And since then, I've become involved at the national level on the advocacy efforts, and then ran for the board and was honored to be selected, and then ran for president-elect last year and served as president-elect this year.
So you're the incoming president then next year.
Correct.
Did you have some big goals coming into that spot?
Well, we have big goals. I'm sure you've. I know you've interviewed leadership about the title protection effort. The FPA board in June of this year decided to pursue title protection, the legal recognition of financial planners through title protection. And that really is going to be a major step forward in the development of this distinct profession that is called financial planning.
Awesome.
And so next year, FPA is going to engage with all the key stakeholders in the financial planning ecosystem to get their
Yeah.
perspectives on what the threshold competency ethical standard should be to hold oneself out as a financial planner. And then we'll take that information and then decide on next steps.
Very cool.
So that's one of the big goals for next year. Yeah.
Have you been involved with the pack here too? And is that did you like when did that come about? Because you probably were were you part of the creation of that, or did
I
that
was not part.
predate
No,
the
I was
pack?
not part of the creation of the pack. And I apologize. I don't know exactly when the pack was
Yeah, I don't
formed, but
either.
it's a
So
separate.
either,
It's a
right?
separate. It's
yeah,
a separate legal entity than FPA. But the pack is critical in uh, helping our
hmm
profession move forward in terms of educating policymakers on the
yeah,
issues that are important to us as members and the profession.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's like the pack side of this world is like pretty interesting in the sense that I don't think that most members of either the C3 or C6 organizations out there can usually tell you much about what the pack does. And yes, it is a
Right.
separate entity,
Yeah.
but the relationship's kind of symbiotic in the sense of right promoting the profession to policyholders. But
Correct.
it is like that. We should probably do an episode on some of those at some point because I joined I've been leadership positions in a couple different industry professional organizations, but I didn't really learn a whole lot about that until I joined NAFA,
Mm-hmm.
and because their PAC's one of the larger ones
Yeah.
too. And it was kind of like, okay, this is super interesting and like has a meaningful impact. But I don't think that most members of the membership side think about that impact.
Right.
And so it is kind of one that probably lacks awareness inside of the financial planning profession.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to tell you a story about what the PAC did this year to help protect financial planners and their clients. So, earlier this year in Kentucky, there was legislation that was proposed and ready to be passed that would impose a sales tax on a number of different
hmm
professions. The FPA PAC, along with FPA, hired a lobbyist to educate policymakers on why that would be a bad idea, both for our members and ultimately for our clients, right? And we were able to remove financial planners from those professions that would impose a sales tax on. So that's a real success story of how impactful the PAC could be because if that sales tax went through, that could be used as an example throughout the country of here is a potential source of
hmm
revenue for the government. Of course, we want financial planning services to be accessible to as many people as possible and keeping, allowing planners to provide their services without having to add on a sales tax is critical to getting those services out to as many people as possible.
For sure.
Yep.
So James, I was really excited after I started at Carson, and Jamie told me I could continue to work with my friends at FPA through our partnership with Carson
Yes.
Coaching and FPA.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about the buzz. What members are enjoying about the partnership, what leadership, what you guys are enjoying about it.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, obviously, it's just a tremendous benefit to our members um, to have a premier business coaching company like yourselves making their services available to our members at a discount is a tangible benefit to anyone who joins FPA as a member. And so I know that every time we talk about the value proposition of being a member, we talk about the partnership with Carson Coaching. And, we want to thank you for making your services available to our members at a discount, helping our members become more successful business people so that they can serve more clients.
Yeah, and we have, I think, over 650 members now that have set up their online, like the access inside the FPA portal to CCO, which is great because that's, I don't know, 30 some courses and a couple hundred
Really
practice
cool.
management documents. So,
Yep.
So
you know,
more than I thought before we were
Yeah.
talking about. I said like over 500. So that's
Right.
awesome.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
we just broke 650, which is
Awesome.
great.
Okay.
Yep.
And, that is a great resource, right? And that one is
Absolutely.
free. So it's discount is down to zero on that one, which is
Yes.
a nice one because
Yep.
that's part of just, your FBA membership.
Right.
And, it's in your portal. So you don't even have to go log in or go
Right.
find it anywhere else. Can I ask you a question? So we talked about practice management there. How have you set up your practice, right? So what
Hmm.
are some of the keys I think to creating a successful practice? And you said that you've grown very organically
Yes.
through referrals too. So
Yes.
like
Yep.
super organic, right?
Right.
That's like ultra organic
Right.
growth, not
Yep.
even just out there marketing organic, but
Right.
you know,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I've very intentional. I'm a sole proprietor. I've intentionally built a lifestyle practice because I want to work only with those people that's a good fit for me, and I want to have the freedom to be able to spend time on those things that are important to me. Um, so just in terms of how I've been able to uh, gain referrals from existing clients, it's really just about being a fiduciary in your mind, in your head, having the mindset of always doing what's right for the client at all times, and providing the services that the client wants. And if you can do that, if you can deliver, competent and ethical financial planning services to clients, you're going to be successful. You're going to be successful because there is a um, desire for that type of service. There's a need for that type of service, and if you can do that and do it well, you're going to be successful.
Do you structure your, relationships in any interesting ways and the number of meetings, how you run your
Yep.
meetings?
Question.
Yeah, anything
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah. So I have set up a surge meeting process,
Hmm.
so a three meeting process throughout the year, and have different services that I provide with each meetings, different questions and answers that we get through during those meetings, and so yeah, that does help to scale the business
Hmm.
and make sure that you can deliver a consistent service to clients.
Is that something you wish you knew when you started? Because I'm
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I serve about 100 families right now, and I'm at capacity, right? And that's fine. But there's no way that I could have served 100 families when I first started. Obviously, technology has improved scalability, and then improvements in processes and service calendars, for
Mhm.
example, have given me the ability to serve more clients.
What's one piece? Ask two quick questions here. What's one piece of technology that's really helped you, and what's one that you feel like you might still be missing out there?
Hmm. Well, I can tell you recently, Holistiplan has
Hmm.
been fantastic in terms of being able to answer tax-related questions for clients. So that's been very, very helpful. Of course, my CRM is kind of the center of the practice, and so that's something that
Hmm.
I highly recommend that planners adopt. Um, Gaps. Let's see.
Sometimes it's hard to know what the gaps are because we all
Right,
know that they're a gap until we find out later.
right,
Like we didn't know that we all needed Holistiplan, and then we
right,
got Holistiplan. We're like, hey, this is pretty good.
right, right. Well, I can tell you, I'm not sure if it's a gap, but as my time spent on volunteer services has increased, my the ability to handle administrative tasks has
Mhm.
definitely diminished. So, in anticipation of the commitment that I have this year and going into the future, I've hired virtual assistants to help me with the administrative tasks. So that's been very, very helpful. Um, yeah, one thing I wanted to just mention is I just said that I'm at capacity, but one of the responsibilities I feel as a planner um, is to scale the services to as many people as possible, right? Because again, financial planning services are wanted and they're needed. But I'm only one person, and I've intentionally kept it that way. So I feel that my service to FPA is my
Mhm.
way of scaling financial planning to more people throughout society.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, James, it's been wonderful chatting with you and catching up. As we
It's,
near our time together,
yeah.
we always like to close out with, what does finding your freedom mean to you?
Yeah, so freedom to me is the ability to spend time on the things that matter to me most. Whether that's serving my clients, spending time with my family, traveling. Um, this profession has blessed me really with that freedom, and so I'm very, very grateful for that.
Awesome. Well,
Oh,
thank you so much, James. It's been wonderful
Anna,
again.
yeah,
And
thank you
Jamie,
so
as always,
much.
a pleasure. and
Jamie,
thank
thanks so much.
Thanks, James.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anna.
and thank you all for listening to this week's episode of the Framework Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode.